on, like how many people ended up responding, what you saw, what you didn't see, etc., stuff like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I guess, Adam, you responded to the survey, right?
Of course.
Part of the community in it. Well, the survey was fantastic, right? It really exceeded our expectations. We got like 330 almost answers from the community. It gave us very valuable information in terms of where is our community coming from, what's the understanding of the purpose of Olympus, what are the areas where we need to improve. It was really, really deep analysis on where we are standing, and the good thing on one side was that help us see that the direction that we are taking in terms of development and new features somehow answers a lot of the requests and comments of the community. There's a lot of work to be done that we're going to discuss and present during this week. But it's really, really good. Some numbers that we can throw out there, like 50% of the community came through Twitter, right? Most of them came from referrals or word of mouth. So was really a great insight on the community, right? In terms of the understanding of the purpose of Olympus, right? We did like a month and a half ago or so an initial collective construction of what was the mission and why we're here, what we're trying to achieve, and looking at the answers that we got from the survey, I think we are able as a community to communicate what we are here for. The common denominator on those answers were we're looking to be a decentralized central bank, digitally native, constructed for a world that moves beyond fiat global reserve currency, right? There are many answers out there that were very good. This is one that I liked a lot, right? But I think for the old Omes that answered these questions very well, I think the understanding of Omes, and there's in what to improve section of the survey, right? There is a request to make more clear explanation of the mechanics and of the protocol. For the newcomers, we actually launched last week a Sherpa program that will allow the newcomers to ask questions and don't feel overwhelmed by all the information that we have on Discord. So that also is attending some of the requests that we saw on the survey. Was another common denominator was a strong request to improve our UI and make it more clear and integrate in the UI a lot of the information that it's spread all over the Discord, from conversations, office hours, talks, and so on and so forth. And we are actually launching, and we'll see some of that during this week, the new interface. Hope you all like it. So an official calculator. There are many calculators that were built by the community. There's a request that I saw in a couple of answers that which is the official calculator, and I think it's interesting what's official or not official in a DAO, right? We're going to talk about that, or at least discuss a little bit on how we're transitioning to a full DAO. And I think everything that people do in the community is kind of official, right? Everybody is doing peer review of what others do, right? And we are here to create an ecosystem for the community to grow, for Olympus to achieve its mission. But in the end, it's the community that will be able to do it. So official calculator, official dashboard. It's the community dashboard, it's the community calculator. The only thing that we can say is that is it peer reviewed by the community? No, I'm not sure I would stick with the official name. So yeah, we are very excited, very, very excited about the outcome of the survey.
It seems like there are various takeaways from that. I did like the introducing the Sherpa program, and which is already live, as you mentioned. Because I remember the early days of the protocol, I would spend a lot of time, and I know a few others would spend a lot of time just really teaching new Omes kind of the way and kind of understanding exactly how the protocol works and whatnot. So it's cool to have dedicated Omes and with this whole, kind of structured program to allow new Omes to get onboarded and get caught up to speed as easily as possible. So I kind of want to get a little bit more granular with regards to the survey. And so there was the gold standard question. What was the right answer?
Yeah, that's funny. Well, the gold standard question is it was not right answer, right? It's funny. Some people were able to nail it in terms of what was the relation. The question was, what is the relationship between Zeus and the gold standard, right? And in the early days, in one of they were not even called office conversations. I think it was like lectures, and some of the respondents talked about the lectures that Zeus gave. He was getting into the explanation of the gold standard and what's the relationship between money and currency and the gold standard. And at some point, Zeus stopped and said, "I cannot get into this." And he said, "The day I talk about the gold standard is the day we moon endlessly," right? So someone was able to quote him in the answers. I'm not sure that was the right answer, but for us, it was a way of, instead of asking, how long have you been in the community, was more asking, okay, if you've been long enough, you know what the gold standard is, right? So all answers were very funny to that question.
What answer stood out the most to you?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Which answer stood out the most to you?
Well, this one, the quote from Zeus, because I didn't even remember that quote. So that I really like it. There were very funny answers like Zeus is gold, which was pretty cool. There's which one? Yeah, that was funny. Yeah.
So yeah, as you mentioned, there's a lot, there's definitely a lot of new stuff coming. Obviously the survey had that one question for feedback, and I'm sure that you guys are still, kind of parsing through it and kind of figuring out new ways to implement a lot of these new things, which I guess would kind of make it perfect for us to transition over and get on Banksy on and have him kind of chat a little bit about what the roadmap is, the state of the DAO. Actually, I think that's something that we should really cover, and I'm excited to kind of dig into that. But yeah, is there anything else, Apollo, that you'd like to quickly mention before we bring up Unbanksy?
Yeah, I like to just mention that something that was recurrent in a lot of answers was the request to have videos explaining to help people, and yes, we were working on some of those. One of those will be shown or released during this FOHMO week. So be looking for it, because it's going to be very cool.
This is awesome. You guys are working on everything, it looks like.
Yeah. It's a great community, and I think it's pretty important, and Batsky will mention it. I would say that 99.9% of this work is coming from the community, and everybody is invited to join, right? We are trying to put as much tools and processes in place for everybody to feel comfortable and contribute and add value wherever they think they can add it. I'm very, very impressed on how this has evolved over the last months. So congratulations to everybody, right?
Awesome. Yep. All right, so we got Unbanksy here. Let's dive right in.
Thank you.
So thanks, Paulo, by the way. That was awesome. So Apollo just gave us a lot of feedback, right, from the community, with regards to the survey and kind of what he's been seeing. So do you want to shed some light on how that kind of ties all into, what we got coming up with regards to, the future of Olympus, I guess, and, maybe, shedding some light on exactly what the DAO's functionality is, how involved, how many members, right? Like, is it just a handful of the same people, or is it, new people popping in? Yeah, just pretty much, paint this entire picture for the community to understand exactly how productive this DAO is and what the roadmap is. You're on mute. Oh, he's got to get unmuted. Wartel, if you can unmute him, it says he needs special permissions. I think it works. Does it?
I'm trying.
It's 127 listeners though. 128. Yeah, apologies for the technical difficulties.
This is very weird. There's no setting that would like
Yo,
exclude
maybe
him
it's
from
because
speaking.
maybe it's because he doesn't have the FOHMO tag, right? Like the three of us have that FOHMO role or whatever, and he doesn't have it, so maybe that's why.
Right, he does now.
All right, yo, Unbanksy, can you unmute yourself now? Oh, he dipped.
He's in a state of Ome.
There we go.
What the fuck?
Seems like he has a server muted.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. How will we do this?
He's restarting Discord real quick. Let's see.
Yeah, or maybe join with a phone or something.
Yeah, he's actually
okay.
leaking too much alpha that we had to mute him.
Yeah.
Oops.
Laptop just malfunctioned. They don't want the Omies to know how productive the DAO is.
Yeah, maybe let's try with some other people so that you're sure that it's not happening next time as well. Maybe I can pull up here, sir. I'll invite you just to check if it's a problem with everyone or just with Banksy.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So it's something related to you and Banksy because I have given the same exact roles and I give you like all roles on the server. So you should be able to unmute yourself. Yeah, in that case, maybe we can start first with the policy section, if that's okay for the policy guys. Let me check the chat. Sorry for the inconvenience. Policy guys, so at Abby and at XH3. Start policy, question mark. In the meantime, Zeus can talk about the gold standard question, gold standard if you want.
No, they're not ready.
They're
All
not
right,
ready.
you can talk now.
Hey, can
Let's
you guys
go.
hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Let's do this.
That shit was crazy. I had to add.
Yeah, I fixed it for you. Someone's
Oh,
server
shit.
muted you. I fixed it.
Oh, shit.
Jaws
Thanks,
did some
Josh.
work. Jaws
Yeah.
did some work. Let's go.
Good job,
Get it.
Charles.
Yo, you're the best.
Thank
man.
you, Josh.
Thanks so much.
All right, so let's and Banksy. So pretty much just to kind of reiterate. So Apollo gave us a bunch of feedback with regards to the community, and kind of how the survey went. I guess if you can just paint the picture in terms of the DAO and how all that, like how the DAO and the role that the DAO is playing with all the work that's coming up, and kind of also at the same time, if you can shed some light on the roadmap and kind of what you guys got coming up.
Yeah, for sure. So I think like if we collect all of those survey responses and just kind of look at like the high level, we're definitely entering an expansion phase of Olympus. And like based on that, like the community has come up with 3 objectives to rally around. So like the first one is grow the treasury. We proved the mechanics with staking and DAI bonds, and now we should pour on the gas and partner with other protocols, diversify our treasury assets from DAI into other more equally productive assets and algorithmic stablecoins and potentially other assets as well. The second goal would be like increased visibility. So we have this amazing community. We have the power of memes. We have the Omes. We should really lean into that and kickstart some viral loops that will bring in more members and grow the community. And then the last one would be kind of this like just improving the Ome experience, right? Like some of the survey responses have noted that like Olympus is hard to understand. The mechanics are not easy. Like we have the meme of the Giga Brains for a reason, right? And so being able to create an experience both in-app educational materials and on Twitter just educates the new users on what the value of Olympus is, how it's not a scam, and just leaning in on that. So like creating a great onboarding experience and just doing more of the educational materials. Kind of like specifically like to share some of the projects that we're thinking of like in the next 100 days. We're exploring this idea of like treasury as a service. So providing diamond hand liquidity to up and coming protocols. Like we're just partnered with Frax. We're in talks with potentially other protocols. I actually don't know if I can be sharing them, but so I'll leave it out. But the idea of just kind of like treasure as a service as like this product that we're working on. Definitely want to revamp the Olympus brand, and with that the website redesign. We have a lot of exciting stuff happening this coming Friday that's going to show that, and more so later in the quarter as well. Personal account dashboard, so providing better analytics to Omes on how their account is doing, the health of that account, investment strategies, and how they can kind of maximize their investments. In terms of like kind of the other teams, what they've come up with, like marketing, we definitely want to double down on virality, focus on Twitter, influencers, NFTs, and then like for policy, there's some work on like Lockstaking, which I think AB Pup will talk more about.
Wow, yeah. So it seems like there's a lot going on, and I like so you mentioned that this is what's going to be happening over the next 100 days. Yeah. And so when can people? I guess I don't want to give you guys like a hard timeline, but when can people begin to see a lot of this come to action? Obviously, like as Apollo mentioned, the Sherpa kind of education in server has begun. But how about a facelift on the website and all these analytics, like that, like all these things that you mentioned. Do you think by the end of the 100 days, all of it will be live? Anything coming up this week, next month? So it can kind of get Omes a little bit excited and look forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Fridays event, there's going to be a pretty big announcement in terms of like the website redesign. So sorry, I didn't mean to hype it up so much, but like a big major redesign that just streamlines the experience and makes better information and the whole website experience for Omes. So that's definitely coming in the pipeline end of this week. And yeah, I mean, I think like everything I said, we're planning on focusing and launching for the next 100 days. And so that really comes down to the power of the community, right? Like, it's not, I think to reiterate what Olympus or what Apollo said, it's like, it's not a mandate that's coming from top down. Like these were goals that were set by the community members, right? So they organize around teams, and they felt like this is what we can achieve as a team.
Yeah.
You know, like so it's really up to them to make that happen, right? And like the DAO exists to support them in many different ways, not just like in terms of budget, but also recruiting, guidance, skill levels, and so on and so forth.
So real quick, so yeah, go ahead.
No, you got it.
Yeah.
Go.
So I kind of want to shift gears just a little bit. So it's you mentioned this whole roadmap, and then you mentioned like, you know, these teams that are being developed. These teams are in the DAO server, correct? And so the DAO, like, how many, like, how active are these teams? How many teams are there? How large are they? How do you see the DAO evolving? If you can shed light there, paint the picture, let the homies know exactly, like, you know, where all this productive behavior is coming from. Because, you know, as Apollo mentioned earlier, if you said like 99% of like new, you know, activities that are happening in Olympus are all kind of proposed by the community. So yeah, if you can paint the picture with regards to exactly how the DAO has been behaving and how you see that evolving.
Yeah, for sure. Just as a preface, I think like this is one of the most exciting organizations I've ever been part of, right? Like traditional and decentralized. And so like you said, there's like 99% of the initiatives coming from community. Like there's so much energy in the community. Like we have people with full-time jobs that like dedicate their nights and weekends to work on this, right? We have like one guy who runs a restaurant, and then he comes home and codes for until 2 a.m. So that's pretty insane. So like just like given the community like energy, like I'm super excited where we're headed. To give you a little data on like where we're at today, we like officially launched the Discord server on May 18th, so about a month ago, and we've had 706 contributors join. That's about 11% of the broader Olympus community, right? Those contributors, like their skill level and where they're actually contributing spans like marketing, policy, front end, smart contracts, design, like really the whole breadth of all skill levels possible.
I also saw there was like an initiative where a bunch of Omis started learning Solidity together so that they can kind of help out with the contracts. And then I know that's one of actually the most active channels where, you know, they're kind of asking for help and guidance. So that was super cool to see in the DAO server. So it's like, I remember there was early on some discussion about potentially fragmenting the community. I feel like if anything, this is making it stronger because now there's a separate server where homies are learning to basically strengthen the original server. So
and I on that note, like I think like one thing that stands out is that like we're extremely welcoming and supportive, and so like if you want to join a project, we want to work with you, right? And so like we find ways to work with you cross functionally, because I think all of us are kind of tied towards that big vision goal of like just building that future of Greece. And so yeah, like that's extremely like it really excites me as well. In terms of like kind of like where we headed, I just want to kind of add a note on that. Like to reiterate like what Apollo said, like we're really leaning into the decentralized aspect of DAOs. So we encourage grassroots participation and project formation from there, like letting community come up with ideas that can improve and grow the Ome ecosystem, right? We're already seeing that with projects like Odyssey, which Memetics and Eves will talk more about. And like, I think if you look at a kind of on a high level, I think like the best ideas are global and often require out of the box thinking. Like innovation is out of the box thinking. And so we want to design an organization that fits that criteria, right? So like decentralized organizations are that, and we want to really heavily lean into decentralized orgs, right? And maybe like the kind of the future state, if you imagine, like, is that like anybody from around the world has an idea, right, that will help grow the Ome economy, and so they can put together a team and come to the DAO for a budget proposal, which will get voted on by the community, and that funding will help them realize that vision that helps them, that helps Olympus, and it's like a positive sum game.
For sure. So it seems like, so you mentioned that the DAO server was launched on May 18th, and a bunch of these teams formed, and about 10 to 15% of the larger server kind of, joined the DAO server to help and find ways to contribute. And it seems like since then, there have probably been like, I don't even know, like 10 initiatives that have come out, like the Sherpa kind of onboarding, Ome marketing, education, front end facelift, policy, integrations. Like, so it seems like it truly is decentralized, as you mentioned. And I think one of the most intriguing and exciting, yet least understood, is arguably the policy initiative that has I've seen a lot. Like, that's probably one of the most active channels in the DAO server as well. And people are always asking questions, trying to learn, and it's being kind of led by ABPup and XH3, who's in the audience. We should probably bring him up. And I think that the policy is just one of the most. It's Zeus created this entire black hole of content and just idea, like this whole idea of Olympus, where kind of people really need to spend a lot of time to understand. And then now you have ABPup and XH3 coming up with this whole new idea of reimagining the policy and kind of thinking about the longevity of the protocol, which all started was just some discussion in the main server, and then leaked onto the DAO server. So I kind of want to bring them up and have them talk about that. But on Banksy, this was a blast. Like, I really think you did a great job shedding a light on exactly what the roadmap is and the state of the DAO. And I think the Omies have no choice but to be extremely excited for what's to come.
Thank you. I'm excited as well.
Yeah. Cool. So ABPup, XH3, welcome to the stage. So let's start by why don't we just talk exactly about what policy is? Apollo and Banksy both mentioned a few times policy. So why don't we just start with that? Like, what is this? How did this start? What are you guys kind of attacking? And then for those who haven't seen, there's an OIP 11 which is posted. If you can kind of just start with a brief introduction and start diving in there.
Yeah, sure. What's good, Adam?
What's up?
Yeah, it's a great question. What is policy? If you have 3 hours to listen, I'll have a TED talk here pretty soon. What policy is, but for me, anyways, and then I'll let XH3 answer in his own way afterwards. Policy is like kind of the heart of the protocol. All of the decisions, all of like the really nitty-gritty, detailed decisions that need to be made about like how are we going to steer the protocol in like specific ways, and what are we want to incentivize, and what do we want people, how do we want to incentivize people using the protocol, and also like our partners to work with us. That's all like questions that are answered in terms of policy. So it's really, for me anyways, policy is just like, okay, figure out how we're going to take this semantic problem, like how do we reward people who stake longer, for example, and turn that into something that we can model and understand, and then apply our understanding to make it the way we want to it.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And so I see I remember I feel like this conversation has been happening in the server for about a month, which is a long time given how young Olympus still is. And this whole idea of reducing rewards rate, how did it come about? And I guess at the same time, you can chat a little bit about how does slowing rewards benefit the protocol, and what is the kind of like the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, I want to give mad props first of all to XH3 for really bringing this up hard in the policy group. So mad props to you, man. And I'll let you kind of explain from your perspective where it came from and then I can kind of chime in too.
Yeah. Okay. So just to allude to what policy or monetary policy, like for me, like is and means. So it's all about just real mechanism design, because Olympus is built on the idea of maximum cooperation and like game theory, and there are just so many moving parts that you have to like all encompass in order to make that thing work. And the way we made it work so far is like just like mind-blowing. It's impressive. Like, I've never seen anything like that, so I'm like completely flashed. And so the motivation to actually slow down rewards is that, okay, where do we come from? Like we had these like mad, like 6-figure APYs, right? And it's still super crazy. But the thing is that this system in the long run is not sustainable like that. And so what we aim to do is to like bring longevity to the protocol so that all of the hard work that we all like put into Olympus like every day, and like all of the Omes, even with the kind of service that staking is, right? When you stake Ome, like you bring a service to the protocol and you get rewarded for that. And so we want to make sure that this, after all, is like worth something, so that we will be here next year and like the years to come. It's all about sustainability.
Exactly. So it's about, yeah, exactly, sustainability, longevity, and that's one of the primary benefits of the protocol. And so I know also introduced or like alongside that is this concept of locked staking, right? So what are the benefits of locking to the protocol to the user? And yeah, if you can just shed some light there, and then we can maybe talk a little bit more about how afterwards we can talk a little bit more about how initiating policy changes looks like moving forward. But yeah, if you can shed some light on, what are the benefits of locking to the protocol and to the server, to the community, to the user, to the protocol, et cetera.
Yeah, I'll give a little background on myself anyways. I've been like an Ome for a little while, but what got me interested in joining the DAO was locked staking and the discussion that was happening. I don't know, it was like a month ago or something. It feels like years ago now. Locked staking and how that could possibly work. And I thought to myself, like, this isn't something that I've seen around in a rebasing, like a compounding reward system. It works in different ways, like with locking and stuff like that. But I was really interested in that. And so I feel like I've dived probably way too deep into like how lock staking works and what the costs and the benefits are. From every perspective. So I guess I'll just say, like, what is lock staking and how is it different than staking? So just as for those who haven't been in the discussion yet, lock staking is basically agreeing that you will not unlock or unstake ahead of time for a certain amount of time. So a month, a year, 2 months, 6 months, whatever. And because you're agreeing ahead of time to not do that, you are bringing some really, really tangible and big benefits to the protocol. So, for example, the protocol now knows, like, okay, so that liquidity is locked. It's in, the treasury. We have it for this amount of time, and that amount of visibility on like your treasury and like what you have is super important to what I'll say a decentralized central bank. So there's a big benefit to that. It also, gives us a lot of, traction towards, our protocol partnerships to say, hey, so whoever we end up partnering with or whatever, look at all this liquidity that we have. And also, guess what? It's not going away for sure for the next year because all of these people have locked up their liquidity. And so it's like a guarantee. This is not a rug. This is not a scam. I mean, I know our APYs look wild right now, but like it's in, check the contract, it's in there. So, from the partnership perspective, like that's game changing, right? And from, acting as a decentralized central bank, like, that's huge. So those are two big things for the protocol. And so how should we reward, the good users, the 3 threes who, are locking up their hard-earned money? Well, of course, it's with increased APY. So, when you lock for a certain amount of time, the current thought anyways, and I guess to say that this isn't, this is all up for discussion still, with the community. The current thought right now is, okay, so when you lock, you earn on a multiplier of how much, how much Ome you locked up for. So for example, for 12 months, if you agree, you agree to lock for 12 months, you'll earn on 50% more Ome than you deposited. So if you deposited 10, you'd earn on 15, for example. So you're getting this like increased rate of, you know, return that brings up your APY as a reward for, you know, locking your Ome in the system and allowing the protocol to then branch out with much more, I guess, confidence than they would if, you know, there was the risk that everyone could just dump for no reason and with no, you know, no risk to them other than just dumping and you know, selling. So it really benefits everyone, you know, from that perspective. Anything I missed, XHD?
Yeah, I would just add like one component there that I find like super fascinating. I recently read an article where that was about game theory, where the thing is that when you take like public goods problems, then in public goods problems, the participants in a market, so to speak, do not care about anything but themselves. Like there's an actually incentive to defect. And when we map that to like Olympus, the incentive to defect is actually make a profit on the back of somebody else, right? With locked staking, the opportunity that we have is actually to remove the incentive to defect and turn a public goods problem into a coordination problem where we work together, like even stronger. Like this is then the real way of like 3-3, right? And so by removing the incentive to defect, like we make the whole system way more sustainable and stronger because we are able to, in a more predictable way, remove circulation supply from the market, which should give us like a huge head start and make us way more competitive.
Yeah,
Got it. So if I'm understanding this correctly, just a quick kind of summary. So lock staking is something that's going to be introduced, obviously with the vote of the community. But pretty much what it does is it provides people the option to lock up their own for longer, and if they do, they get rewarded further for that. And then, can you shed some light on, say, there's an individual who doesn't want to lock up, or let's just say someone is, you know, just coming in and out of the protocol, wants to quickly catch a rebase for literally just one rebase, an 8-hour rebase, because he has $10,000 in idle cash, and doesn't want to lock stake. What do the rewards look like for him? Are they different than the, like, obviously they're different than the lock stakers? How different? How is that decided? If you can paint that picture a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, I'm not sure if we already published the spreadsheet that we want to get out, because Olympus did like an amazing job with like Excel sheet magic that I could never pull off. So there is an amazing sheet that we like want to get to the people so that they can play around and everyone can like make up their own mind and see in terms of numbers what it means to, like, let's say, stake and not lock, or like lock for 3 months and then lock for 12 months and so forth, and then see like fancy graphs being visualized in that sheet to like get a real idea about locked staking and what it means in terms of APY.
Got it. So pretty much everyone should stay tuned, because like the visualization for all that will be coming out soon. So, and people can kind of play around and figure out what the benefits are and whatnot. I guess, which is great to segue into how will the process of initiating policy changes look like moving forward? So obviously we kind of want, you know, the approval of the community, and you don't want to do anything without anyone else knowing. And then they're like, and you know, just people start flooding and calling it a scam or whatever. It's pretty much like how can people expect, like what level of transparency can people expect moving forward? And how will that be communicated? And you know, maybe like timeline, because obviously some of these changes are really big changes, and so you really need like a lot of people to truly understand and, you know, poke all the holes that they possibly can at it to make sure it's pretty much, you know, bulletproof. So what can people expect with regards to policy changes moving forward?
It's you know, for me anyways, transparency and formalization is like absolutely the name of the game for us in the policy group. We have awesome discussions. I mean, like you said, I think the policy group is probably the most active group in the channel, and in fact, or in the server. And I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience, like a lot of familiar faces in the audience, and it's really awesome to see and recognize all the avatars and stuff from the various policy discussions we've had, which is great, right? I mean, we're all talking, and that's all really good. But nothing. Talk is one thing, but then formalizing that talk into something that we can put out as a community, such that if you weren't in the conversation, you can still kind of catch on and come to your own conclusions about what we're talking about here. And it comes back to the I think the first alpha leak of FOHMO 2, what XH3 said about the spreadsheet, which is basically a tool for anyone that that I kind of came up with to use to try and wrap your head around what locking is, and then determine for yourself what the best parameters can be. And the idea there is to drive discussion, drive informed discussion and debate. I love debating people, so come at me. And most importantly, then afterwards, we have an understanding, we have formalization, and then taking that and transposing that into all of our policy levels. Like for me, anyways, the ultimate goal is within the policy group to have a spreadsheet or whatever. I'm big into Excel. I'm an Excel nerd, but whatever we have as something that is usable with some utility to the community. That everyone can understand, okay, where are we at right now with all of our policies, and how can we drive that discussion, in an informed way. So formalizing all those levers is like super important to me, and then making those levers known and where we're at right now is kind of like the second thing, and that drives the public discourse and the public debate, which we then, as a group can come together and then make a formal, forum post on, talk about it, and then, make a snapshot vote of it. I think the OIP 11 was a really good, it was a really interesting, small use case of that. We already talked about reducing rewards rates, blah, 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 but like we followed that path and with community-driven effort, raising the need, making some in-depth discussion, forum post, discussion on the forum, bringing forth the vote, and then also, by the way, please everyone vote on OIP 11 if you haven't already. That kind of like formalized process is like it was perfect. It was awesome. So that's where I hope to see in the future.
Yeah, no, and I think that is I think that's something that we will probably continue seeing. I think that will always naturally, kind of happen, where you start talking about it a little bit in the server here and there, then more people jump in on the conversation, and then it kind of begins to formalize from there. I guess one question that I have is, are you seeing it formalize? Are you seeing this little grassroots policy changes formalizing in the DAO server more, or the regular server at large? How have you guys been seeing it happen?
Well, just my personal opinion is that I want this year to be a DAO. Like, the policy team is not an elite club that like makes top-down decisions or anything. Like, we want every single good idea to be heard, and so wherever it's coming from, it's like highly appreciated. And whoever wants to like be part of the policy team should please join, because like we want you. We need your ideas to make this a success together, right? And so having that community engagement and having an informed conversation with everyone so that we can like synchronize even if we are not agreeing on everything, I think that is just like super healthy and beneficial.
No, I think you're 100% right. And I think that is a great call to action. So I think that Ome should understand that, if any of you Omes are monetary policy nerds or economists or whatever, definitely hang out in the policy group. These guys are always chatting. XH3 and ABPub, I'm 100% sure they'll take care of you guys. So yeah, is there, I guess one thing that a few more questions that I kind of had in mind. One was, so do we have any like policy metrics in mind that we can monitor in order to assess like protocol health and protocol success? What are some things that people can take a look at? Like, so, Zeus always comes in, or other members of the team or Omes in the server kind of come in and drop some metrics and say, XYZ metric is dropped. And then they say something about it and, oh, this is so good. And a lot of it, I'm pretty sure it goes over many people's heads. So if you guys can just detail maybe 1, 2, 3 metrics, that people should really monitor and what they mean and what it means for the protocol's health and success, that'd be awesome.
One metric that just comes to my mind from the top of my head is backing by asset. It's just that I'm not aware that we have really a good way to measure or visualize that. Other than that, like Shadow created and maintains an amazing Dune dashboard, right? Where you see things like runway, for instance, like seeing that is amazing and gives people an idea of where we kind of stand. So I feel like metrics that we want to monitor and take into account when making policy changes will evolve around these kind of ideas. But there is still a good amount of work to do in the future.
Totally agreed. We have a lot of work to do in terms of formalizing those. One thing I definitely, that comes to my mind, anyways, in terms of protocol health, is well, you touched on it actually. It's the runway for staking. That's like we talk about a lot. It was a big part of the discussion in OIP 11. That's a good indicate. That's a good KPI there. I'm kind of big on KPIs, so you got me really. That's a great question, Adam. You got me really thinking about like what the possible future KPIs could look like, and I could even envision like a protocol health dashboard on Dune. And again, coming back to like increasing visibility. That's a really awesome thing to have. Is like we can show our bonding utilization. We can show the backing by assets. We can show our treasury over time. We can show a lot of those things like the runway too. Where it's like you can do that in a transparent way. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And even beyond merely just transparently showing it, I think what would be cool, and whoever's in the DAO and wants to start this project, what would also be cool is kind of have like a nice little quick 2-3 sentence LE5 of like, all right, this is the chart. What does it mean? And like, why, right? Like, what does it mean if like the runway is this long? How does it get extended and why? Because those are a lot of those questions are typically the questions that people ask anyways, right? They come in like, oh, how does the runway extend and how is it sustained? Blah, blah, blah. So I think having a protocol health dashboard alongside just a quick brief explanation of each what each chart kind of means, I think would be extremely productive, streamline a lot of the questions that people be asking, and kind of just be super healthy, not only just for the protocol but for the community as well.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I'm taking
yeah. So I guess to wrap things up, I kind of someone I think it was Unbansky or Apollo, one of them touched on this a little bit earlier about this whole treasury as a service. So you guys want to tap into a little bit about like what options do we have to make the treasury productive in the future? Just real briefly and kind of how that would go.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually just put out a Twitter thread that goes into that direction. And earlier we were talking about it because we already have quite some options for that, which is like extremely cool. And like one of the obvious choices is that we actually already own LP rewards, and this is just money kind of that we have and that we can think about like, okay, what to do with it and how to utilize it, right? Do we just want to keep it or do we want to do anything? Then in fact, the DAO itself is sitting on like funds. So the question is, okay, what to do with that? And one idea could be that we could actually say, okay, we want to mark down backing assets, but I'm not a fan of that because I want to have the kind of a level of backing by assets as high as possible, which is also a indicator for health, right? And there are quite some fancy ideas that we can come up with in terms of, okay, how do we utilize the cash flow that we produce every single day? Just one thing that's like super important for me in order to be like safe and conservative, I would not like to touch the assets that we use for backing, like backing Ome 1-to-1, right? Like we should never touch that and not put any additional risk on top of that, because this is pretty much our lifeboat. This is why we are here, and that makes everything work.
Certainly. Yeah, so I guess there's definitely a lot more development to be done with regards to making the treasury productive in the future, and excited to kind of see that roll out. And it's awesome to see that a lot of these are being, it seems like, we're having these office hours but you guys are kind of, the whole community is just kind of taking it over, and it just shows how strong the DAO is, which kind of reminds me of this new project. I kind of want to bring up Eves and Memetics. There, I know, I'm not sure if you guys have been working with them, but I know they're working on a pretty cool project in the DAO called Odyssey, and kind of want to have them chat a little bit about what that is. But XH3 AB Pub, I think it was awesome chatting with you guys about, you know, policy and what we can expect moving forward with regards to changes and whatnot. I guess one thing is there's obviously a lot of Omies in the audience right now, and I'm sure many people want to probably at least get a little bit more, you know, at least a little more awareness on, you know, this whole policy thing. And it seems like this is a really huge initiative moving forward that will probably decide a lot of the future of Olympus. Where can they find you in the server? Where do you guys hang out the most often? And if they want to just learn from, you know, and kind of just from the outside perspective, where can they kind of get sped up with a lot of information? XH3, you mentioned briefly your Twitter. You had a Twitter thread. Maybe you can drop your Twitter and people can kind of read your previous threads and whatnot and kind of learn. So yeah, if you guys can kind of just cover that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Twitter thread is just in the tweets channel here in the server. But I often hang out in the questions channel here in the main Discord to like help homies and answer questions. And anyone who is like interested to join policy should just join the DAO server. Somebody may drop a link to that and then like express their interest, and we assign roles, and then like we get our hands dirty. Like the Omies are hungry, man. Let's get some.
It's awesome. AB Pub?
Yeah, I think I've tweeted one time. So if you want to find my Twitter, stare at that one tweet. It's actually a pretty good tweet, so go and find it. Otherwise, when I'm not doing nothing on Twitter, I am hanging out in the policy group, actually on the DAO server in general. So, you know, you can definitely catch me there. And I love hanging out in the questions and governance proposal threads. Those are two of my favorite ones to talk with people on. So on the main server, as well as general, because I just like hanging out. Healthy Omies is also one of my favorite ones too. So catch me there.
Yeah, I love that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I talk about drinking water a lot there. I talk about hiking and stuff.
This is awesome. This is awesome. All right, so well, all you homies in the audience, you heard that. We can definitely find AB Pub and XH3 in those channels. Let's keep the conversation going with regards to policy. I think that's a super important one, and I'm excited to see what you guys, you know, keep helping out with.
Yeah,
appreciate
love
it.
all my homies. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Yep. So moving forward to Odyssey. So I've heard about this project a few times. It has its own dedicated channel in the DAO server. Memetics and Yves, I know you guys are kind of spearheading that, or at least you guys are going to be chatting about it right now. Can you guys talk about it, shed some light, maybe a little bit about your guys' background, why you guys are starting this, and what the whole purpose behind all of it is?
Hey guys, how are you?
Yep.
So yeah, this all started with a community call. I'm sure you guys remember when Bitcoin crashed from 65K to 30K, and we had all the retail panicking and everything. But we had a community call, and 100 Omies were in the call, and that was just sort of a moment for me to watch just the culture of Olympus existing in the midst of kind of market chaos. And Zeus actually mentioned in that call NFTs, I assume because he saw the amount of organic activity within the community around NFTs, just interest in NFTs in general. And so Zeus mentioned, yeah, it would be nice if we had some sort of functionality, some sort of auction house or something where, you know, Omies can transact Olympus culture through NFTs using their Ome. And then he said, hey, somebody run with it. So that night I just, you know, went on the Notion and posted a pretty, you know, trivial proposal with some good ideas and some bad ideas. But what kind of happened was, in my opinion, really cool. We saw this, you know, base idea, which, you know, didn't necessarily have much merit, And we saw it kind of create this culture of ideas where like other people started like writing proposals and creating ideas. And then suddenly we have this group of people just like discussing NFTs. What are the problems of NFTs? What can we do with NFTs that will be kind of symbiotic with the protocol? And it was just honestly kind of an amazing effect that took place just from kind of like posting this meme on Notion. And so what happened was we identified kind of the problems with NFTs. Number one, you have a problem of intrinsic value. There's a lack of intrinsic value in NFTs. You have like the bid history, but otherwise you just have like a bunch of pixels. You have like a JPEG. There was also this problem of authenticity, validity, and also kind of a problem of beauty. Like you have like all these NFTs that are just like sort of wash traded, like these NFT laundromats that exist like all over the place. And so these problems were identified, and really I'm really proud of the fact that right now the vision of Odyssey is very, very, very different from the original proposal. And I think that's something to be proud of. It means that the DAO is working and that the best ideas are kind of floating up to the surface. And so, the other thing besides just the problems of NFTs that we identified is we identified like, all right, what are the problems of Olympus that we're trying to solve, which were already reviewed just a little while ago, that we need to grow the treasury, we need to grow the community, we need to improve the user experience. And so the vision of Odyssey has kind of collectively become an NFT project that can reflect Olympus culture and incentivize 3.3, grow the treasury, and diversify the treasury, and just enhance it in general, and just enhance the 3.3 culture. So Odyssey became, so far, it's this idea of kind of creating protocol-owned NFTs. So the Treasury owns one-of-a-kind NFTs that are authenticated NFTs, very carefully curated with artists. And we create a sort of Odyssey museum, which is a protocol-owned museum in which anyone can go and look in this museum and look at these one-of-a-kind of NFTs, but these NFTs cannot be sold by anybody but Olympus DAO. So they're almost like reserve assets, these core NFTs that would be within the museum. And then attached to that, then the concept is that attached to that, we have an auction house where, Omes can bid on NFTs that are sort of iterations of those core NFTs. Versions of those core NFTs, still beautiful in their own right, still rare in their own right, still curated and authenticated by artists, and still reflective of Olympus culture. And Omes can transact, but the only way you get into that museum is by being an Ome. You have to be 3.3. So that's kind of where, and it's been a lot of, it's been amazing, honestly. It's been like, in fact, it's kind of funny looking at the chart. It's like at the dips, at the very bottoms, is where we're meeting, in the Odyssey room. We got like 12 people in the room talking about this project. I'm not saying that we have anything to do with the price action. Like the market cap is way too low for that to be a fact. But what I am saying is that we've got like Omes that are working and at the grindstone, like while the market is dipping. And I think that's really cool. But
that's awesome. I think so a treasury owned museum with like very unique one-off pieces, and then an auction house kind of tandem to that with iterations of those museum of those treasury pieces. And artists are obviously going to come in and kind of whip those up and whatnot. And so that's pretty much what Odyssey is, right? So do either of you guys want to touch a little bit on any collaborations to announce? How can Omes get involved with this? Because obviously this is going to be a very community oriented project. So yeah, how can Omes get involved? And yeah, any collaborations? What's the traction looking like? And yeah, the roadmap timeline.
So Yeah, I mean, Memetics really nailed it. It's been quite a journey. So many brainstorms in the chats. That's been definitely my favorite part of this journey so far with Odyssey. Um, my perspective, I mean, I've started exploring ERC 721s in 3 4 years ago because I was really obsessed about things royalties and then suddenly I was like surfing on some fancy NFT site. I saw an NFT I couldn't afford, but really wanted it. Made like an offer that I knew I was not never gonna make it anyway. But so that artist actually became a really good friend, and his name is Dimitri. And I'm really pleased that he'll be the first artist to create the Genesis NFT. There's an amazing story behind him and I because we actually both got attracted for the same reasons in NFTs. Obviously, he's done amazing things. He's the master behind all the Daft Punk artworks. Every single iconic PlayStation ad you're ever seen, it's from his hands. And there's so many famous iconic works that you all know, but nobody knows who the fuck is Dimitri, right? So and that's the interesting thing. And what happened actually with him is that David Bowie, he started sharing some of the artwork that Dimitri made. It went super viral on social media and actually never got any attribution for it. And that was his initial motivation to get into the NFT space. And anyway, so that was our link, and that's how we became friends. And then me and Memetics we were brainstorming about NFTs, and after many brainstorms, the puzzle started coming together. I think it will be really interesting to see what he's gonna present to us. It's not gonna be anything that like his previous works. There's some teasers I can show, and I'm not sure I want to drop that in the chat already because we on the 18th we're gonna do a special storming session with him. So yeah, that is actually the story of that first initial drop that we will do. Consider that as like the Kickstarter. Obviously, it's gonna be the whole idea is gonna be to attract other artists. The fact that he has such a name and such an impact in that industry, so much respected, will make it easier, I think, to attract other talents also from our community to either do workshops, to create art in collaboration with him. I mean, there's so many ways that this can go, and we'll go into more details the 18th. Just one little thing I still want to add is we have this POAP that has been created. If you look for the POAP bot, and you send it the secret words FOMO Day 1, just the number 1 in letters, just a number, FOMO Day 1. It will get you a POAP, and that will unlock something pretty dope in the near future. So for now, just enjoy the collectible Omis, but yeah, that there's more to come. There will be raffle tickets also that will be sold, but people that actually claim this POAP today might receive some extra tickets. So go there, forget it. A few more hours, I think, to do it. So yeah, that's
quick
my
question
that's my story.
Quick question. So I guess one, how can other Omis get involved? Where can they find you guys? Memetics, Zeus, both of you, and how can they get involved with this whole NFT Odyssey project? And then two, I guess if you can answer this second question beforehand, will there be some VR component with the museum? And will Omis be able to hang out via VR and kind of look at art together in this kind of treasury owned museum?
Yes, but don't make me drop too much alpha.
Yeah, so there has been discussion about that. There's been discussion about like this museum and how like in the future it can be evolved by the community, can be made into kind of like a 3D meta space that can tap into other metaverse projects. So there's a lot of networking opportunities there. as that museum kind of gets developed and beautified and made 3D. So yes is the answer to that question. And then how to get involved, like number one, claim this POAP because it's really a lot more valuable than just the POAP itself. It's going to give you access to the Genesis release when we do eventually release this Genesis NFT. You'll have a chance to win one. So there's a lot of value there. And like Yves said, we're planning some other stuff with these POAPs that we're not announcing yet. But these POAPs are one way to get involved. Another way is to go to the DAO server, go to the Odyssey channel, go all the way to the top and just pretend that the channel is a book and read it. And just kind of go through the process of seeing what we've all been talking about and educating yourself about it, and then just get involved. We don't care what your background is. Like, good ideas can come from anybody. I mean, I think that there's some sort of expression out there that, like, the human brain only uses a certain % of its capacity. So we're all just sort of genius apes anyway. So just like bring your ape hood to the channel and spit ideas out, and because that's been sort of the essence of the project from the beginning, is this collectivity, this sort of like radical collectivity, where like the best ideas end up being the most collective ones. And so we just encourage everybody who wants to get involved. This is a huge opportunity to be involved in the space, and so we really want to collaborate. So come to the Odyssey channel.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So Ome's, if you guys want to get involved, various aspects so you can get involved on the NFT aspect of things with Odyssey, with Memetics and Yves. You can, and then as earlier AB Pop and XH3 were on talking about policy, Apollo and on Banksy talked a lot about the roadmap coming up. So there are so many things that are coming up that Ome's, you should definitely stay excited about. And to kind of wrap things up, we will definitely hear from our beloved Zeus about he's got some, maybe it's some alpha, maybe it's not. Let's see. But let's bring Zeus on stage. Let's see what words he's got. I think people should listen as closely as they possibly can to what he's about to say.
I mean, I wouldn't really call it like alpha. It was more, we like observed something yesterday, and we were implementing a fix. So if you saw this, some guy apparently had cornered like the entire Ome DAO bond market. He had like 40% of the bonds, and then he redeemed them all at once, and by doing so, like dropped the price pretty significantly, and then was able to like buy them back up at a deeper discount than he should have. It was nothing, like, it wasn't a calamity. I think he came out with like some like mid 5-figure extra profit, which is not ideal. It's not going to like break us, but we basically have fixed it now. I just want to touch on what has changed. It's nothing that changes any of like the UI, but basically how the bonds have worked so far is that the price will go up when someone makes a bond, and then it'll go down when they redeem the bond. The issue with that we've now learned is that if you give the bondholder the ability to influence the price down, they get to choose when they redeem that bond. And so if they, by redeeming it, lower the price, then you can have someone that corners the market and then uses that to manipulate the bond prices. We don't really want that. That's not ideal. So basically how they're just going to work going forward is that when you make the bond, it'll just like start treating it like it's claimed as it vests. So you have like 1 Ome in there, and over the course of 5 days, it like becomes available to redeem. The contract is just going to treat it like you've claimed it as that time goes on. And so now, bonders have the ability to influence the price up. When they buy a bond, it moves the price up, but it's just going to come down on its own. So what that means to you is basically that there's going to be a lot more consistency in like the pricing of the bonds, where basically like the only unexpected actions will be spiking it up, and then it'll just kind of slowly ramp back down over the course of time. So you'll just have this like linear drop off until someone gets another one, and then it'll move up, and then it'll just slowly lower. I think this is gonna be cool. It's gonna make bonds kind of like chicken. You know, if you know that game where like, you know, you like run at someone or like drive at them, God forbid, you know, and it's like the first person to like chicken out. It should have the same effect where, you know, everyone can be watching the bond price fall, and it's just a matter of who's going to go and grab it first. I think it'll be cool. At a bare minimum, it gets rid of that like potential for manipulation. You know, now no one can come and like manipulate those prices down and give themselves bigger discounts than they should. Yeah, just wanted to update you guys on that. It'll be implemented tomorrow. There's going to be no change in. We'll like carry over the debt from the last contract, which means that the price will be the same when it switches. It'll just be that if you have an outstanding bond right now, there's already that like redeem V1 tab on the bonds. That'll be where you redeem. Other than that, nothing different. Should be an improvement. And then just one other thing is just commenting on something that Memetic said. I hope you guys know that the DAO is like super market agnostic. You know, I think that like no one really gave a fuck about what was happening in the market. We're just grinding, which I think is really cool. Very grateful and like impressed by how the DAO has come along, and looking forward to keeping it going for months to come.
Years.
Yeah, and then maybe,
Years. My bad.
and then,
So I guess Warthog, go ahead.
yeah, no, maybe to chill a bit the next few days. So tomorrow, for all of you here, we have the official off-topic pre-party. So it's a DJ set, and you can go like crazy and off-topic, and in a few other channels, like the mods will be asleep, kinda. So that's that. So that will start at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is like midnight Universal time probably, and 2 a.m. at night in Europe. Then on Friday we have the main event, so that's like the main FOHMO event where we will have Sam from Frax and Noor from Inverse coming to talk as well with, of course, Zeus. We also have a State of the DAO type of presentation for like a couple of minutes. That should take in total, I think, around 1 hour, and we will live stream this on Twitch since we'll show some things on screen, and this format can only support 50 people. And last time we had over 400 joining, so we will do this on Twitch, so that should also be quite dope. And then on Saturday we have the poker tournament where we'll throw in some cash for you all to play for, where we'll also will release more details about. And then on Sunday there is a roundtable where big brains of our community will sit together and discuss like topics like the future of Olympus and these types of things, which are also which is also quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to listening to that. So I hope you all had a great time, and I'm giving the word to Adam.
Yeah. So I just want to say again, also Omes, thanks for coming. It was certainly a Warthog, Zeus, by the way, and all the community was certainly a pleasure to be able to kind of host the office hours to kick off FOHMO 2. I guess one thing that I kind of want to iterate, and I think that everyone should keep this on top of mind, is that this is all built over the community. This was like this session right here, hour and a half long session, was all through community feedback. It all started with the survey, and we kind of literally just truly listened to what the community is doing, what the community wants, and how the community wants to, kind of just continue sailing the ship. And so I think that is just super important to understand that like no one is gonna break us and break us down so long as we have this community. And that's something that we should be flexing all over the place. Like go on Twitter, like tell all your other like friends in crypto, like there is no community that's better than this community. And that we've cultivated it from day one. We have the best memes, we have music time, like all these things, poker days, like healthy Omes, book club, and that's what's going to continue kind of uplifting us and uplifting the protocol and allowing us to kind of become this kind of blue chip top protocol where everyone like is just, you become this like too big to fail status. It all starts with the community, and some of the top protocols in the space right now, that's where they all started, with a very strong community. And I think that that's something that we should really pride ourselves in, and continue to keep this community as healthy and as robust as possible, and just keep the energy in here, because people are jealous, and just let them be. They'll eventually have no choice but to be jealous from inside the club. So let's kind of keep that going.
I'm proud to be an Ome.
Exactly. Yeah. Ome's together. So yeah, that's all from my end. Zeus, if you have any last words, otherwise, yeah, I think we can wrap this up for the day and then pick it back up tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we can call it. Just thank you, Adam, for leading this.
No problem at all. And yeah, awesome. Let's see you all in the server, Omes.
Yeah, see ya.